How was it working with Chris Cornell? Was there some pretty inspiring moments? He's
Yeah.
such a talent.
Yeah. Well, I remember coming in for auditions with Chris Cornell, and obviously, I was actually a big fan of Euphoria Morning, one of his first solo record, and I was singing those songs, and I always thought like, what a cool artist this guy is, and then actually I dug backwards. I always knew some of the Soundgarden hits, but I wasn't super familiar with the back catalog of Soundgarden. But I remember going into audition for Chris, and we were all just in the room, and we were jamming these songs, like Spoon Man, for instance, and we weren't. Most artists use these in-ear monitors, which just kind of limit the sound in the room. Like there's no like vocal monitor systems going to monitor speakers in the room. But for the audition, we had proper monitor speakers, and it was loud, and we were all playing on 412 cabinets and SVT 8x10 cabinets, and it was full rock volume. And I remember like when he sings that "Spoon Man," when he's yelling that stuff, it was so loud, and he was laying in with his voice that sounded just like back in the day of Soundgarden. It was so loud. His voice was so powerful that it felt like my hair was like, it was intense. But just, I remember that was like a moment where I was like, okay, this guy's the real deal. And of course, he's also been doing some training prior to that audition, so he can control his voice, and he was able to do a gig with like the flu and for a 2.5 hour show and still make it through, because he had some training in more recent years. So, but he could also belt his voice out with like full heart and throat and chest. It was just like, it was amazing. But I remember just loving that. But he was great. He was a great guy to work with. He was a cool friend, and he was very hands off with the band. We came in, we knew the music, we played it to the best of our ability, and he never told us what to do. It wasn't like a ego-y control freak at all. He was just like really easy going, and we did get some help from him too, because there was some songs like maybe like Sun Shower or something, like a lot of songs actually had strange open drop tunings that were totally unorthodox that he just kind of invented. So he would usually, like, we would say, what's this tuning? And then he would sit down and show us the tuning and show us a few fingerings, because they were always like 2-finger chords kind of thing. He wasn't like a fancy guitar player, but he had really innovative ideas. So songs were, he kind of demystified them for us before we actually learned the songs, which was great. But we had a lot of good times with Chris, and yeah, he was spontaneous and crazy. Sometimes we bought him throwing knives for his birthday. He liked that a lot. So we were in the studio, and he was throwing knives at the wall against posters, and he wasn't a violent guy or anything, but he was kind of the kid, and he really liked to have fun, and we knew the kind of stuff that he liked. So we also got him this slingshot. We found like an army supply store on tour, and we were like, what would he like? And then we got him this slingshot with like a bunch of little pebbles, and then he opened the window of the studio, and first shot he pulled, he broke the rubber band. Like he was that passionate. He was just like, and then it just broke. So yeah, he was funny, and he's a great guy. He really liked to get into telling stories and sharing his experiences. But yeah, he is missed for sure.